Again, thank you so much for joining us for this afternoon at InnoTrans, the largest transport event of the world, focusing on rail particularly. And here at this afternoon, we will have a CEO roundtable hosted by Modaxo. So that will be the first CEO roundtable that we are hosting at InnoTrans this year, today. And today at the session, at this afternoon, we will be mainly focusing on innovation and trends in mobility. And we have a great list of panelists joining us from particular parts of the world. And I would like to introduce all of them. So we have Mr. Xavier Flores. He is CEO of TMB Barcelona. So welcome, Xavier. And we have Paloma Baena, Global Strategy Director of Renfe. She is also my classmate from the university, so I'm proud on this. And we have as well from other part of the world, from Singapore, Mr. Jeffrey Sim, CEO of SPS Transit, but they are now increasing their footprint in Europe as well as a global operator. And we have, last but not least, Mr. Laurent Eskenazi, who is the CEO of Modaxo for Europe, Middle East, Asia, and Africa. So welcome once again. And as I said, that we will be focusing at the session mainly on latest innovations and trends in mobility that we are observing during last few days. Of course, these trends are various. Digitalisation is there, decarbonisation is there, the innovation in the business models, funding models, in terms of resilience, social inclusion, and we will try to touch during this panel all these points. And before losing time, I would like to start with Barcelona. Barcelona is my favorite city, not only because of excellent sangria and paella, but it's also having an excellent mobility system. And from this perspective, I want to start with Xavier to ask him, from the perspective of TMB Barcelona, what kind of trends and changes you are observing in the area of mobility during last years, and how TMB is adapting itself as an organization?
Thank you so much. Thank you for your kind words about Barcelona and about our transport system. We're very proud of it. You asked me about the key trends that we have like organization. I think that we have our key trends are the same of the rest of us, of the rest of everyone and everything and organizations, because I think that we are involved in two big transformations, a digital transformation, an ecological transformation, and all of us are working in this direction, in the same direction. But I want to highlight that it's important to distinguish about digitalization and digital transformation and about decarbonization and ecological transformation. They are similar, but not the same. Digitalization is part of the digital transformation, but it's not the whole digital transformation. And the same, the decarbonization is so important, it's part of the ecological transformation, but it's not the whole ecological transformation. Why I say this? Because, for example, it's not only about an electric mobility, good the electric mobility, good zero emission mobility, but we need an efficient electric mobility, because the solutions that our citizens want for their city needs this efficient and needs public transport, because we support this efficient solution, not only a zero emission solution. And when we speak about digitalization, or about digital transformation, we need to speak about not to do the same things with digital tools. We need to speak about how we'll do different things, or things that we cannot do before with these extraordinarily digital tools that are now. It's a real transformation. And both of us involve a cultural transformation. That is the real more difficult thing. That is not about tech. It's not about learn. It's about unlearn. It's how can we prepare the organizations and overall our people to all these changes that they are coming. For that, the key trends are this. And for me, we need to change this our mind and our culture to adapt to all these incredible challenges that are coming now.
Thank you so much, Xavier, and also congratulations, because I know that TMB is having maybe the most environment-friendly bus fleet of the Europe. So that's a big challenge. But you were driving in Barcelona, and you underlined 2 points on digitalisation and decarbonisation in terms of two essential trends. And now I want to move to Singapore, from Spain to Singapore. And Singapore, I lived there more than a year, and sometimes I say to my colleagues that if there is a country in the world called public transport, Singapore could be the capital city. And Jeffrey and SPS Transit is operating buses and trains there for many years. And your operational figures are really notable, Jeffrey. So when we look at the KPIs in terms of reliability, in terms of MTBF, so your figures are quite good. And I would like to ask you, I mean, how you are achieving this, and especially how you are using technology. If you link it with the Xavier, how you are using this technology for this operational excellence.
First, thanks, Khan, for the very kind words. And let me first introduce SBS Transit, as may not be very familiar in this part of the world. We are listed on the Singapore Stock Exchange. We operate buses and rail in Singapore. And our rail lines, like what Khan has mentioned, is the most reliable in Singapore, in the region, and arguably in the world. In terms of MKBF, the mean kilometers between failures are more than 5 minutes, which is a very tall order for reliability. Our downtown line operates at 8 million train km or 24 million car km, which we believe is probably the highest in the world. So our team has done well in that respect. But trust me that such high reliability is not based on just praying and just hoping for the best. We have put in place a very robust O&M framework that really is based on two key points. One is from the engineering team, is what kind of condition monitoring predictive maintenance that we put in place to be able to preempt a failure so that it doesn't happen, and we are able to take the necessary intervention steps before such critical failures happen and cause a delay out in the main line. So our engineers are all obsessed with trying to find the next fault, and any fault that happens, we have a mantra to make sure that it doesn't happen ever again. The other aspect, as we all know, for train operations is not just preventing a fault from happening, because despite best efforts, fault can and will happen. The crux is how do you quickly recover from such faults, and therefore our operations team use a multitude of technologies so that when a fault happens, they are able to recover them in very quick time. And that's why our engineers with our operators work very closely to have these faults recovered. We make sure that operators are well trained, so we are using MR, mixed reality, to train our operators. We make them as competent as they can. They use body-worn cameras so that as they try to recover a fault in the train, they can be well supported by the operations control center in the background, and therefore they can be given advice on how particular faults can actually be addressed. So that at the fundamental level is very critical for us. But we have made a lot of game-changing sort of technologies. So we have implemented a full suite of condition monitoring, so we're able to preempt failures. We have also added in a data analytics platform that's able to preempt faults. So we are able to do pattern recognition to understand that if there's certain behavior that's happening out there, it probably can translate to a fault subsequently, and therefore we're able to take the necessary preemptive steps. And that's all very critical, for us to achieve very high levels of reliability. But to us, in a good operating railway, it's more than just operational excellence. That's fundamental and that's basic. We're now trying to move on to how we're going to enhance the passenger experience, because ultimately it's all about the passengers. So now we are leveraging technologies like Gen AI. So we have digital concierge at our stations that they are avatars, and our passengers are able to communicate. And we also do Gen AI, and we are creating an LLM for rail so that good advice can be given to the commuters. And we also take commuting very seriously. It's not just for able bodies, but also for those with disabilities. So we work with assistive technology companies for the hearing impaired, for the visually impaired, So now we have stations whereby the visually impaired are given cues step by step, and as they step through the station, we are able to bring them to their destination quite quickly. And also now we are doing sign languages, for example, at our stations. So for those that are hearing impaired, you imagine that that can be quite useful. And all this is done so that we're able to elevate the whole experience of commuting. And it's also very critical in public transport in Singapore because cars are expensive. And what I think the biggest drive among commuters is really the first and the last mile. If you're able to stitch up the first and last mile very well, then you're able to encourage more people to take the public transport. And that's where we're quite innovative. We've been working with shared resource companies like Shared Bikes, where you are able to, say, travel on a bus or MRT or on a train and able to see at the station whether there's a shared bike that you can book beforehand so that when you arrive at the station, you have the shared bike that you can use. We're also working with shared car companies as well in that regard. But ultimately, you can see we take a very multimodal approach. So we are very happy that we have good performances in Singapore. And 4 years ago, we've decided to export this beyond Singapore. And therefore, ComfortDelGro, our parent, has now won contracts in Stockholm. Stockholm Metro was our latest win. Prior to that, it was Grand Paris Express Line 15. So that's the JV with RATP Group as well as with Alstom. And we've been operating in an Auckland Rail franchise since 2022. These are very little known facts. Perhaps we should publicize more, but we are quite happy that the system and the processes we have put in place in Singapore has been portable. We have extended to Auckland so far, and we see a step-up improvement in terms of performance. So good reliability is something that can be worked on and something that can be achieved as long as you put in place a very robust framework, as long as the people are well trained and you have a good culture to wanting to do that sort of continuous improvement. And we've seen that across our lines. So very happy to go into the details, or if any of you here would like to visit Singapore, you're most welcome. Because we find that we don't have the monopoly of ideas, and people coming to us and this kind of discussions that we have here just beget new ideas, and ultimately, it's going to benefit the entire rail industry, which is something that we hope to do as part of a global player. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. So I move back to Spain. Especially Spain is leading a lot of developments in the area of mobility, not only focusing on the cities, but also for the intercity transportation. And it's very important to notice that you have the second largest high-speed rail network in the world now after China, and it's an incredible amount. I think it's very important to notice this. And also we see the competition is increasing in the market. And I wonder how you are using technology in terms of increasing your operational efficiency, increasing your customer satisfaction, and what are the new initiatives that you are planning to deploy, Paloma?
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for hosting us and being here with you. It's a pleasure to see you all. Just like he did, I would like to tell you a little bit, very briefly, about Renfe, because I'm not sure if everybody knows. We are the public operator in Spain. And as Khan was saying, until about a few years ago, we were a monopoly. Not anymore. We're now competing with companies from Italy and from France. And that's a very long story that we could discuss at a different time. But this, of course, as every time that you introduce competition into a market, makes improvements in the way we manage, or at least forces us to try to improve our efficiency, our reliability, etc. And of course, technology plays a key role for us. It's part of our strategy, but as a global strategy director, I don't believe anything is strategic until I don't see it in the budget. And the truth is that we have seen, I would say, a 200% increase in the amount of resources we devote to digitalisation, and I would expect that to continue increasing in the next few years. Where do we use it? Along the entire value chain, but we move over 43 million passengers per year. So our focus is on maintenance right now, on reliability of the service. We're using and we plan to expand our capacities for predictive maintenance, fleet optimization, and then we will, of course, move into passenger interaction, etc. But the truth is that we have a very large fleet to maintain, and that's where we can see the largest gains at the moment. However, I also wanted to mention we're a public company, and therefore we do have to use technology as a driver for change in the ecosystem. And the way we're doing that is through open innovation, which I think it's also an important way of making technology a driving force, as you were saying, for the industry as a whole. So we have an initiative called Trend Lab, which is open for participation. And in that initiative, we're in the 5th edition. We support startups. We have grown over 22 of them. And then we actually become clients of some of the solutions that we're already implementing in terms of safety and maintenance optimization. Something else we have done, and I also wanted to mention, particularly from the point of view of a public company, is to open digital capacity centers throughout the territory of Spain. You were mentioning at the beginning, our sector, in addition to being an industrial sector, is a key economic and social sector. We connect people with opportunity, and we must channel opportunity also back to the territories. And a way which we're doing that, we're decentralizing digital capacities, in particular digital capacities in different territories of Spain, where we're introducing 3D printing, robotization, Internet of Things, in a way that we can also create centers of excellence away from the capital city and away from Renfe itself, but to provide a service as well.
I think it's good to hear that you have a very holistic and global view on innovation and addressing the technological developments. So not only from just deploying the technology, but building a capacity for the long-term success of technology in the operations of Renfe. That's very great. And when we are talking about digitalization, technology, I think one very important topic being discussed nowadays is artificial intelligence. So AI is on the lips of many sector professionals. And Modaxo, our group company, we published recently a paper about artificial intelligence in public transport. And I would like to ask Laurent, how you see the artificial intelligence and its usage in terms of increasing the passenger experience and optimizing the operations, as you are leading around 50 companies in Modaxo.
Thanks, Ken. The first thing I would like to say is that I've been in this field, in this domain of transportation for more than 20 years now. And what I see is that things are changing, improving, but some things are very slow in changing. Okay? I'll give you an example. Before I talk about AI, our latest acquisition is a company called Camax, which does ticket vending machines for the UK market mainly. And someone this morning was challenging me, saying, why are you investing in physical machines, ticket vending machines, when everything is digital today? Well, the reality is that a lot of companies, a lot of operators are still buying physical machines because not everyone has got a phone, has got a credit card, has got a bank account in some countries. So we need to be very careful when we talk about improvements and changes. People have been telling me that TVMs will disappear, and I've been hearing that for 20 years. It's not the case. So that's just to say things are sometimes coming slowly. Talking about AI, having said that, a lot of obviously is happening. You've all heard about self-driving vehicles, autonomous vehicles. There are some trials now. I think the field which is really interesting here is probably the field of traffic management, reducing congestion. That's really, really important. Increasing passenger safety. That's happening. That's happening. Delay predictions. That's true for buses. That's true for rail, but that's also true for airlines. Okay. I was just reading an article the other day saying that for the airline industry in the US alone, the cost of delays is about $39 billion. $39 billion. Can you imagine if we could just improve that a little bit? So I think that's coming, clearly. You've heard about drone taxis. You've got all these new innovations which are coming. And I think it will take time, to be very honest. I think everyone is getting very excited about AI, and we've got people much more expert than I am here. I told you when you invited me, I think you should have invited someone much younger and much more attuned to this kind of stuff. But clearly things are happening. We can see it. It's increasing passenger experience. So I don't know how long it will take before it becomes reality and in our day-to-day life. But we see a lot of stuff happening here, and I'm confident that this will improve the transportation industry as a whole.
Thank you, Laurent. Stephen Hawking says that AI is likely to be either the worst thing or the best thing for humanity. I think that it could be the best thing for rail and public transport. That's how I understand from what you are telling. And after talking about technology and digitalization, I think maybe we can be talking about other trends as well in the second round. And I would like to start with let's say, in decarbonization, because this was the second area which you were underlining, Xavier. And you have the most environment-friendly bus fleet in Europe. And I wonder, I mean, how you are working in terms of, let's say, electric buses, cycling infrastructure, and what challenges you foresee for deploying the sustainability goals in Barcelona?
Okay, thank you. First, I don't know if you know what is our bus network, but we have more than 1,000 buses at Barcelona from TMB Barcelona. We are operator from metro, from buses, and more than 200 million of passengers year. And we are involved in this moment just on this transformation to a zero-emission fleet. This year we're more than 25% of buses yet zero emission electric or hydrogen. When we face this challenge, the easier part of the challenge is to buy the buses. To buy the buses is so easy. You need the money, okay. You need the funds and you need the investment. But at the end, you go a tender and you buy the buses, the different market, etc. But the real challenge is how you adapt or you depot to have that shared infrastructure for these buses. Beginning for this. In this moment, we have three big depots, and we are with the working of the first one, who in 2 years will be absolutely electric. But we are in this way. Not only the depot, because all the logistics change. When you have a diesel, it's very easy. In 10 minutes, the bus can come back to the city, can go back to the service. Now you need to plan all the times you need to do reshares, etc. And it's absolutely different how much you work and how works your logistic. And you need the energy. You need this electricity. And it's not easy, this electricity, because you don't need a big consumption of energy, but you need a big power. We have the metro network, and perhaps the consumption of all the 1,000 buses will be only 15% of all the consumption of the metro network. But the power, it will be the same, because in this moment that we're charging these buses, we need a high power to recharge so quickly, obviously, these buses. For that, the challenge is in all these different kinds. And obviously, the people, the mechanical, all the people, the technicians, it's another bus. They, for more than 50, 100 years, they're working with the same motor, the same engine, with the same product, and now all is changing. But the changes are slow, is really. For us, we buy physical machines because the customers, they can buy by the phone in this moment at Barcelona, but they continue going to the machine. But the changes are perhaps we overvalue a short term, but they are in favor of a long term. A long term, the changes are incredible. And I need to say one thing more important, because when I go to a policymaker, a politicians to say, I need the money to buy these buses are more expensive than a conventional bus. But in our studies, when we analyze all the cycle of life of these buses, including infrastructure, including energy, including maintenance, these buses are cheaper or equal to the rest. With these electric buses, that is mandatory to change to zero emission, but we save the planet and we save money. And two things are important, because if not, we can have a problem.
Thank you, Xavier. When we talk about decarbonization, nowadays most of the focus is going on the buses and taxis, but I see a great opportunity for shift to the rail. So that's also very important from the perspective of decarbonization. And I want to ask you, Paloma, so what are the major initiatives of REMFE for decarbonization, and how rail systems are now, you see, for evolving to meet the future needs of people?
Well, the rail system has, let's call it an incumbent advantage. We use electricity, and therefore we can assume, for the most part, we are part of the solution. But it's not always the case. It depends on the source of that energy, right? Sometimes we think that because we're electric, we're green. Not really. So Renfe is the largest consumer of electricity in Spain. That's how big we are. And our commitment is to get energy only from renewable sources. So this is part of actually the commitments of the European Union. It's part of the Green Deal that we have embraced as a community of countries, and therefore we want to be champions of it. That has required certain adaptations and investments, and we're very much committed to it. About 90% of our operations are carbon neutral. Now, for the rest that we do have some diesel operations because we don't have the infrastructure yet for the full transition there. We're also looking at innovation. We have a pilot on hydrogen that we developed as part of the Next Generation program of the European Union in cooperation with CAF and with Toyota. And we did the first test in 2023. We're a long way from it, but I have walked around the fair, as many of you, about 15 kilometers yesterday. So I have seen there's a lot of hydrogen initiatives going on. We may see finally some of that coming through. And if that's the case, we will certainly seek to adapt it. But again, because of our size, there are other things that we can do. We're planning to do our first emission of green bonds next year. We're also planning to use much more carbon credits, and that's something that I think the European Union is increasingly looking to do, because the railways need investments. We're not talking about that part, but we need investments to continue expanding the network, bringing innovation, connecting cities, connecting Europe, etc. And for that, a possible source of funding would be to actually use our carbon credits to revert investments in the railway sector. And that's something that we're also exploring and we would like to see happening in Europe.
Thank you, Paloma. I think you and Xavier helped me to make a link between today's session and the session we will host tomorrow at 11 a.m. in this booth again on funding and financing. So which is a very important topic, especially after COVID-19, when the costs are increasing and revenues are shrinking. We are in a dilemma, and then we will be discussing again at this booth at 11 a.m. tomorrow on funding and financing. And I would like to continue with Jeffrey now on one other area, especially nowadays there is a concept called Society 5.0 that's being discussing about how the societies will be adapting to the change, how we can increase the social inclusiveness, how we can increase the customer engagement. And you have a lot of good practices in Singapore on this one. Could you share some of them with us, Jeff?
Maybe let me also share some of the sustainability related initiatives that which also contribute to the wider society contributions. And collectively, some of these ideas I shared with you help us to reduce our electricity consumption by up to 15%. Some are very simple ideas. So the first one is we had tweaked our timetable of trains such that they ingress and egress at the same time from stations, because then you can maximize the regenerative energy that's being transferred. And a simple tweaking of such timetable actually saves us about 5% of traction energy. But you need to be able to have that capability to tweak your timetable. But there are many suppliers out there. Perhaps Modaxo has companies, one of your 50, that could do it as well. So that's one aspect. The other that we have done is how can we as operators be as efficient in the deployment of our trains to meet consumer demands. So how can we commensurate ridership with train deployment to make sure that when there's a train, when there's a particular ridership, you have the train to meet the demand. So we know most of the railways, it runs in a carousel manner, right? But what happens if in that line you have very disproportionate ridership, very, very high and very low, but because of peak, you have to cater to very high demand. So now we are working on a tool that is able to use an AI to do two things. One is that how can you optimize the deployment of trains? For example, instead of having one carousel, you break it up into two carousels if the topology of the line allows you to do that. The only inconvenience of that, obviously, is that someone that needs to go from one line to the other, from one end to the other end, would need to change trains. But that's always happening today anyway, where people are used to taking different trains. The second thing that we have done through this particular model is be able to use parameters of both fare gates as well as loading on trains and able to then train it based on discretionary travel due to weather and so on to really make up a model. So that once you are able to optimize two different loops, for example, in a line, how are you going to train? How are you going to, what sort of headways that is required? Today, we know that very often we base on day of the week, time of the day, that trains are being deployed. But if you're able to build different baselines, then the whole idea is that you're able to deploy trains to really match ridership. Simple ideas again, not too difficult, but again, it brought us a lot of savings. Third thing that we have done is really to conduct an energy audit at our stations, and air conditioning is a major guzzler of energy. But do we know that actually there's quite a fair bit of configuration setting that we can do for air conditioning? For example, do you need all chillers at all times of the day? And do you know that within the chillers, it's also possible to change the configuration to again match demand? So that, coupled with doing hybrid cooling, brought our electricity bill down by about 15%. So I think that's quite significant. So I thought of just contributing to the earlier discussion. Now, we operate in a society, so we are not just delivering a service, but we want it to be a community-led initiative. So we bring the community as part of our business. For example, we conduct exercises in times of disruption. We bring community with us. We have also trained caring commuter champions in Singapore. It's an initiative. So these will become advocates of public transport. And so that's one aspect whereby it's a community-led effort. And during peacetime, we have to do what we can to bring the community with us, because in times of disruption, we need to bank on this goodwill for their understanding, as well as to help us to be advocates for the network. But we have also done a lot of CSR activities as well. And there are two aspects to it. One is to be inclusive, like I mentioned earlier. So we make sure that public transport is accessible to all. We work with the different social service agencies in Singapore to understand the needs of their members. And we take care of the different aspects. So we have a program, what we call Travel with Confidence, where we have our staff that basically shepherd as well as shepherd commuters on our rail network from end to end, so that we give them confidence in taking rail networks. We hire staff who are on wheelchairs, assisting other wheelchair users, and therefore there can be that empathy, and people will be more willing to take this public transport. And also when we work with the caregivers, they are very heartened, because now that we have taken away helping them to help for their people that they're caring for, it gives them a lot of time for themselves. So there's a lot of activities that we do, and there's actually a positive externality to all these things that we do as a society. Yeah, there's a positive impact to our staff, and it is very helpful for a service-oriented industry like ours, where staff are become more compassionate towards other staff who have such inclusive needs and to the commuters. So really the point is that serving as part of the community, we need to do our best to integrate with the community and to contribute back, and therefore we deliver a good service for everyone. But the sustainability part, I think, is really key. I think there are a lot of things that we can do in that regard, so that we can make sure that public transport, as sustainable as it is, can be even more sustainable by reducing our carbon footprint.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. And my last question will go to Laurent, because Laurent, you have also a unique perspective, because you work all around the world with 3,000 different customers, and then you talk with them about their challenges. And how do you see, the main challenges and how you are supporting these customers in terms of implementing this sustainability practices and as well supporting them in terms of technology transformation.
If we come back to the subject of AI, because that's the big topic, obviously, and as you said, we've got today, I think, 39 companies within Modaxo. And the way we operate these companies is that we give them full autonomy. Okay, they operate. All we want is for them to operate on their own properly. We help them when we need to, but we give these companies a lot of autonomy. And remember, we've got a motto: we hold forever. So we never ever sell a company we buy. So it's a long-term investment, very long-term investment, a life investment. So if I relate back to your question and the coming of AI now into the world, I would say there are two aspects to it. Okay, we're not going to dictate to our companies what to do, but there is also a governance aspect, and that's really important. Something I would like to point out. Like with any new technology, you need to look at the good sides and the bad side. Okay, and you know that a lot of bad things can happen with people using AI. They can impersonate you. They can use all sorts of things to really trick you. So even though we don't like doing that, we've just issued a policy for the 39 companies to make sure that, they can't just do whatever they want and come up with some really, really bad ideas. So we like it. We want to progress. We want them to do stuff, but it needs to be done in an orderly way. So we've just issued a policy saying that any initiative in the field of AI needs to be approved by our chief product officer, by our IT officers. So that's really important. So I just wanted to point out the fact that, again, new technologies come with their own problems, and we need to solve that. Now, in terms of initiatives, we are looking at various things. We've got companies, as you said, all over the world. We've got 3,000 customers. But obviously, one field which is really important to us is, for example, arrival prediction. So we are working on that. We are trying to improve our algorithms using AI. I was talking a bit earlier about traffic management, delay predictions. That's really important. We're looking at ways to help operators like yourselves make decisions with AI tools, new tools. Still new, but we are working on that. One thing which I think is really promising is helping. It's very simple, but helping software people writing code. You can be much more efficient, okay? And there are a number of things which are proven very efficient right now. So we're using that. One thing, for example, also which could help us save time is automatic testing using AI, okay? And make our testing procedure much more robust. So we're working on that. So writing documentation, okay? I was just talking to my son the other day. He's working for a company, and he was using some AI tools which I've never heard of, Alexandra AI and stuff like that. And he said, "But that's all we do all day now. Nobody's writing documentation without using AI." Okay, I am, but it's true that it's happening. And we need to, and that's improving efficiency. So that's what we're doing. But I really want to highlight the fact that we are putting a lot of governance around that. Otherwise, it can be a jungle and it can be dangerous.
I think this is very important, and governance is essential for companies, but also for the mobility. So, and then we were talking a lot in recent years about resilience, and people were interpreting resilience from the perspective to the climate events and so on. But I was telling to my colleagues, what about in terms of resilient governance, resilient funding? So that's what you're underlining is very essential there, Laurent, as well. And I want to make maybe one very quick two again, if there are any points that you would like to share in addition to what we have discussed. Xavier, you have any points you would like to share with us?
I think that the most important is how all these things that are happening, this digital transformation, ecological transformation, how I say that my first intervention, how involve a chain of cultural transformation of all companies. We need this because if not, we cannot go forward.
Thank you. I think that we're heading into a very exciting time for the mobility sector and for the rail sector in particular. I'm sure you all have read or started to read the Draghi report. And I think we need to adopt that perspective of competitiveness, social impact, green impact, and mobility within our industry, because that's what's going to give us the edge, and it's going to help us innovate with a common goal that we all share. And in what concerns the European Union, since you're talking tomorrow about finance, there will be a lot of new ways in which finance to the sector can come, and we need to be very proactive in shaping that discussion in the next, especially next year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just two quick points. One, I think, is that as we focus on digitalization, we have to make sure that the cybersecurity aspects are all been looked after as well. So it's really a very balanced approach, so that we don't tilt too far to the point that we make ourselves more susceptible, but also not do anything, and we lag behind the ability to leverage digitalization. The second is on innovation. I think in our organization, particularly like a public operator, we always need to stay at the forefront. And how do we do that? Is not to have the business as usual people looking into innovation, because besides looking at very urgent stuff and important, they will have to focus on urgent. So at SBST Mobility, we have created a mobility innovation center that has dedicated focus with a mandate to look at technologies within rail, outside rail, bring the best practices, work with different partners and suppliers. And importantly, it's not just to buy off the shelf, but it's to co-curate solutions with the various vendors. And that's what we have done. For example, with Hitachi Rail, we developed a video analytics solution that meets our needs at stations, is able to identify people loitering at stations. We are also working those tools that I mentioned in terms of dynamic headway management. But to me, that's most important, so that we continue to stay up front, find new tools to make us more safe, reliable, and innovative. And ultimately, it's all to enhance the customer experience.
I think everything has been said. I mean, as I said at the beginning, some things come slowly. Okay, it's not overnight, and as you said, there are also some cybersecurity issues that need to be taken care of. But I feel we are probably at a crossroads today, and mobility, because it's so important in uniting communities, in easing people's transportation, is really in my mind an innovation vector. Okay, and you can see a lot of initiatives coming up now. I don't know how long it will take to make them to make full use of them, but clearly we can see that we are at a crossroads, and a lot of very exciting stuff is happening. I can testify on the technology side.
Thank you so much, Duran. I want to thank to all our speakers, and I would like to invite a round of applause for all of them. So I think the panel was great, because we discussed multiple areas in terms of the trends and innovations in the mobility. Now we talk about digitalization, decarbonization, innovation in the business models. We touched to the funding and financing, on the governance. And we also gave some headlines, like I wasn't aware Renfe is the largest consumer of electricity in Spain, or costing of the delay in US. I think our website will get a lot of visits to learn about the statistics, and our colleagues will be very happy on this one, also from this perspective. And I just want to tell to our audience that you can reach this recording later on in our channels. We will share this with you, that you will have a chance to listen once again all the panel. And before I close, I would like to invite Modaxo's Global CEO, Bill Delany, for handing over appreciation tokens to our speakers.
Just a small token of our appreciation.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was really great. Thank you so much.